The Shroud of Turin is the actual burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth.
And the great majority of them have concluded the shroud is indeed 2,000 years old.
What if artificial intelligence just uncovered shocking details about the Shroud of Turin? The cloth some believe wrapped Jesus himself. The alleged findings are sparking heated debates, leaving even skeptics stunned. Could this be history's biggest mystery finally revealed? Stick around and don't forget to subscribe for more. The Shroud of Turin has a way of refusing to disappear. Every time people think the mystery is solved, something new pulls it back into the spotlight. For centuries, this single piece of cloth has been the center of arguments between believers and skeptics, scientists and historians. What's strange is that it isn't a glamorous relic. It's not decorated with gold or jewels. It isn't even in perfect condition. It's just a long strip of linen with the faint outline of a man imprinted on it. But the mystery is in the details. The figure looks like someone who suffered injuries, wounds that resemble crucifixion. Both the front and back of the man's body appear as if the cloth had wrapped around him, yet the image shows no distortion. No paint, no brush strokes, no known technique explains how the figure got there. That's why it has captivated minds for hundreds of years. And now, with artificial intelligence entering the story, the mystery isn't fading. It's only getting deeper. AI has revealed things about this relic that even advanced science couldn't explain. Could this cloth really be linked to the most extraordinary event in history? Or are we looking at one of the most brilliant fabrications ever made? That's the question still hanging in the air. The first official mention of the Shroud of Turin appeared in the 14th century, in a small town in France. It didn't arrive with grand processions or religious endorsements. Instead, it surfaced quietly, wrapped in uncertainty. A knight presented it as the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, but the church didn't rush to confirm the claim. That hesitation kept the shroud cloaked in mystery. Some accepted it immediately as sacred, while others doubted its authenticity. Imagine being in that time, seeing this fragile cloth and hearing whispers that it once held the body of Christ. For some, it was overwhelming. For others, it was suspicious. But what makes this story gripping is how the doubts never went away. They followed the shroud through every century, through wars, fires, and endless studies. No matter how many people tried to explain it away, curiosity about it only grew stronger. The more questions people asked, the stranger it seemed. And the story took a shocking turn when technology got involved. In 1898, an amateur photographer named Secondo Pia was given the chance to photograph the Shroud of Turin. At the time, photography was still a relatively new technology, but when Pia developed the negative of the image, what he saw was nothing short of astonishing. On the cloth, the faint figure barely looked human, but in the photographic negative, a clear image emerged. The face of a man. A body with wounds. Details that no one had been able to make out with the naked eye suddenly became undeniable. It was as if the shroud had been hiding a secret all along, waiting for technology to reveal it. That moment changed the way the world saw the cloth. People who had dismissed it before were now stunned. Could a medieval forgery really hold such hidden details? And if not, what did that mean? That photograph sparked a new wave of investigations. If a simple camera could unlock such clarity, what would happen when science dug deeper? Through the 20th century, researchers attacked the shroud with every tool they had. They tested the blood stains, and to their surprise, they found real human blood. Later studies even suggested the blood type matched rare groups found in the Middle East. Scientists examined grains of pollen trapped in the cloth. The results pointed to plants from the Jerusalem area, far from medieval France. That was a big deal. It meant the fabric might have actually originated from the right place at the right time. Experts also looked at the figure's injuries. The marks matched what is known about Roman crucifixion practices. Nails through the wrists, scourging on the back, bleeding from the scalp, all signs consistent with accounts from the biblical narrative. What made this especially intriguing was that medieval art usually showed nails through the palms, not the wrists. So if this was faked in the Middle Ages, the forger somehow knew details that artists of that time didn't. The deeper science dug, the stranger the story became. But then came the test that seemed to end the debate once and for all. In 1988, 3 world-class laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona tested pieces of the shroud using carbon-14 dating. This was considered the gold standard of dating ancient fabrics. The results shocked believers. The samples suggested the shroud dated back only to between 1260 and 1390 AD. For many, that was the end of the mystery. The cloth was medieval, not ancient. The idea that it was the burial cloth of Jesus Christ was dismissed by scientists around the world. Newspapers published headlines declaring the case closed. But was it really closed? Almost immediately, critics began to challenge the results. What if the samples tested weren't representative of the whole shroud? What if they came from a section that had been repaired during medieval times after fire damage? Some experts claimed they found evidence of newer cotton fibers woven into that part of the cloth. If that were true, the dating would have been thrown off from the start. Suddenly, the supposed final word on the shroud was being questioned, and the mystery was alive again. After the carbon dating controversy, scientists looked for alternative methods. One breakthrough came in 2022, when Italian researchers used wide-angle X-ray scattering to study the linen. This technique measures how fibers degrade over time. The results suggested the shroud wasn't 700 years old at all. It was closer to 2,000 years old. Even more, isotope analysis pointed to the Levant, the region that includes modern-day Israel. That matched perfectly with where the shroud would have originated if it were truly from the time of Christ. Blood analysis also added new layers. The stains weren't random. They matched wounds described in the gospel accounts, including a piercing in the side and lash marks across the back. The anatomical accuracy was so precise that some doctors argued the creator of the image must have witnessed a real crucifixion. How could a medieval forger know those details so accurately? These new findings didn't settle the debate, but they made the carbon dating results look less certain. Instead of solving the mystery, science had opened new doors. One of the most fascinating theories to emerge is the idea that the image was created by a sudden burst of energy. Some scientists suggest ultraviolet light or even particle radiation may have imprinted the body's form onto the cloth. What makes this theory intriguing is the level of precision in the image. It's incredibly shallow, only penetrating the very top fibers of the linen, while remaining photorealistic. Reproducing this effect in a laboratory has proven nearly impossible. One estimate suggested it would require billions of watts of energy released in a fraction of a second to replicate. For believers, that kind of energy burst lines up with the idea of a resurrection event, something extraordinary, something that goes beyond normal physics. For skeptics, it's another mystery, but one that can't yet be proven. Still, the fact remains, the image doesn't behave like paint, ink, or any known artistic method. Whatever created it was far outside the techniques of medieval craftsmen, and that's why the mystery refuses to die. Just when the debate seemed stuck between faith and science, artificial intelligence added a new twist. Researchers and artists fed high-resolution scans of the shroud into AI image generators, asking them to reconstruct what the man behind the markings might have looked like. The results shocked everyone. Out came the face of a rugged Middle Eastern man with deep-set eyes, a bruised brow, and hauntingly human features. It didn't look like the polished European versions of Jesus often seen in artwork. It looked raw, realistic, and unsettling. Viewers were stunned by how lifelike it felt. Suddenly, people weren't just looking at a faded cloth. They were staring into a face that seemed alive. But here's the twist. AI doesn't believe. It doesn't have faith or bias. It simply follows patterns. And yet, the image it produced matched forensic studies of what a first-century Jewish man might have looked like. Coincidence or confirmation? That's what left so many people speechless. As soon as the AI images hit social media, they spread like wildfire. Some people were awestruck, convinced they were seeing history come alive. Others were skeptical, pointing out that AI is trained on millions of images, many of them religious. But here's what made it even stranger. The face didn't resemble traditional artwork. It wasn't the familiar European depiction. Instead, it lined up with historical and anthropological data. Even skeptics admitted the accuracy was surprising. For believers, this was emotional confirmation that modern technology had just pulled back the curtain on a 2,000-year-old mystery. For skeptics, it was a reminder of how powerful AI is at shaping perception. Either way, the conversation exploded, and that's exactly what makes this story so gripping. No one can fully explain it. The AI didn't solve the mystery, it added a new layer to it. The Shroud of Turin has always been more than an artifact. It's a symbol. At exhibitions, people stand in silence before it, often overwhelmed by its presence. The AI-generated images only amplified that reaction. Suddenly, the mystery wasn't just ancient history. It was right in front of them, rendered in pixels. Some were moved to tears, others debated endlessly online. And many simply asked, what if? What if this cloth really did capture something impossible? Or what if it's the most sophisticated piece of craftsmanship in human history? The fact that this simple linen keeps stirring emotions in a digital age says something powerful. It bridges faith, science, and technology in a way few relics ever could. And as always, the more answers people seek, the more questions emerge. Today, the debate is as fierce as ever. On one side, skeptics cling to the neaty-date carbon dating, insisting the cloth is medieval. On the other, believers point to new imaging results, isotope studies, and blood analysis that all suggest a much older origin. But here's the truth. The shroud doesn't fit neatly into either category. It continues to live in the space between faith and science. Faith asks for trust. Science asks for proof. And somehow, the shroud seems to resist both, as if daring humanity to keep searching. That's why it has endured for so long. Not because it offers easy answers, but because it refuses to give any. When you step back and look at the evidence, the picture is astonishing. The cloth shows no signs of paint or human artistry. The image is impossibly shallow, more like a photographic imprint than a drawing. The blood is real, the wounds are consistent, and the fabric itself might be as old as the 1st century. Yet there's one more detail that continues to baffle scientists. There are no signs of decomposition. The cloth shows evidence of a body, but only for a short time. Too short for decay to set in, too long for it to have been staged as a hoax. So what really happened? Did the body vanish? Was there a burst of energy that left a mark behind? Or are we chasing shadows that can never be fully explained? Whatever the answer, the Shroud of Turin has proven itself to be one of history's most enduring puzzles. And now, with AI joining the conversation, it feels like we're closer to the mystery than ever, yet just as far from solving it. After centuries of debate, tests, and technology, the Shroud of Turin still whispers the same question. What if it's real? Science may never prove it. Faith may never need to. But between the two lies a mystery that refuses to be silenced. So what do you think? Did AI bring us closer to the truth? Or did it simply add another layer to an unsolved riddle? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you're fascinated by ancient mysteries that modern science still can't explain, check out our next video. Who knows? Maybe the answers we're looking for are still waiting to be uncovered.